Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome on in. Come on in. Those of you who are just joining us, um, good afternoon. Today is Monday, March 29th, 2021. I'm Professor Emily Lawson, or Ate Emily, or Auntie Emily, as some of the Filipino American students call me. And welcome to our Women's and Gender Studies 150 20th Century Writings by Women of Color course at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, in conjunction with our Women and Gender Studies, American Culture, Asian Pacific Islander American Studies 363, Asian Pacific Islander American Women's class. Since we are still in a pandemic, we have been meeting remotely and virtually this year. And I want to thank you all. I think we had over 120 people registered for this webinar today. So thank you, thank you. Thank you for joining us today for a poetry reading and discussion with one of my favorite Pinay poets in the whole wide world, Barbara Jane Reyes, the author of Letters to a Young Brown Girl, which is now actually available for University of Michigan folks through our University of Michigan library. Thanks to the library staff for their help in acquiring the textbook, for that poetry book for us this term. If you're just joining us, please write your name in the chat. Type your name in the chat and where you're from, since that's a question that a lot of us Asian Americans are asked on the daily. Or what indigenous land you're logging in from today, or if you are a poet, a spoken word poet, a page poet, a wannabe poet, or Filipino, or Pinay, or from Professor Reyes's hometown of Oakland, California, shout out to the Bay Area, or if you're from my hometown of Seattle or Seattle, Washington, we want to know that. We want to know if we know you, we want to know if we're related to you, and so forth. So put that in the chat. You can use the chat for comments and reactions throughout today's program. Since Professor Reyes and I are both poets, we love words. We love to see words. But we can't see you during this webinar. We welcome and rely on you and your words and your reactions to keep the energy flowing here in the room, so to speak, in the Zoom, so to speak. So go ahead if you have reactions to any of the poems or to any of the discussion or to anything that either one of us are saying, please go ahead and put those in the chat, or use the reactions, snaps, loves, thumbs ups. We love it all. We love, 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 love all of that. Okay, so please do that. We feed off of that, and we welcome it. Okay, we welcome it. I can't necessarily see all the chat right now when I have screens going, but I will look at it, and we have our staff here to kind of help us too. So we're going to ask you to use the little Q&A function. There's a little Q&A button at the bottom of your screen or at the top. I don't know how you have it configured, but there's a little Q&A function that you can ask a question a little later as we go on. We'll have a pretty lengthy Q&A period where you can ask questions. And that's just a good way for us to keep track of the questions so that they don't get lost in the chat. The students in the classes that I teach were required to post a question to our Canvas course website for today. And if any of you students want to ask that question on camera, on screen, or on audio, please put that in the Q&A box below and denote that you want to come on screen. And we'll try to bring you on screen during the Q&A portion. Oh my gosh, Vince Cotera is in the house. Hello, Manong Vince, one of my favorite poets of all time too, Filipino poets. If you haven't read Vince Cotera, please do read it. I should go through the participants list later and fan out a little later. Wow, okay. Thank you for joining us. Okay, thank you first to our sponsors, the Women's and Gender Studies Department, the Asian Pacific Islander American Studies Program, the Department of American Culture, especially our event coordinator who's kind of behind the scenes here today, Lisa Toon. She made the flyers and set up the webinar for us. And if you were with us last week when we had actor Dante Bosco, you'll know that she makes all of this kind of work. And so thank you, Lisa, for all you do. Shout out to the United Asian American Organizations, UAAO. Any UAAO folks in the house, students in the house, that's our coalition of undergraduate or graduate coalition of student organizations at the U of M campus. And also a big shout out and maraming salamat to FASA, our Filipino American Students Association, for also helping spread the word and co-sponsoring today's presentation. All right, you can check them out on Instagram and on Facebook. They've been super, super active. Check out the daily article that came out this weekend after the very moving vigil that UAO sponsored on the steps of Angel Hall last Friday. So proud of all of you and all the work that you're doing to bring light to stopping anti-Asian violence and stopping all forms of violence in our world. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. I was going to try to share a screen with you. So, all right. Is Alaska in the house? Oh my goodness. Yes. All right. Yeah. And if you're definitely from out of state, we want to know where you're at. That's amazing. Okay. So I'm going to try to share with you a screen to try to introduce to you our distinguished guest today. Maybe not. Stop share. It's not working. Let's see. Ha. Oh, okay. Let me try this again. Okay. Way too many screens open. All right. Okay. Our distinguished guest today, I've actually had the pleasure of knowing through her poetry first, because she's such a prolific writer and teacher, and teaches all of us in her daily work. Barbara Jane Reyes is the author of Letters to a Young Brown Girl, published by BOA Editions just last year in 2020. And you can purchase that book off of their website here. Support these types of presses and independent bookstores as well. If you can, that's boaeditions.org. You could check it out. You can also go to barbarajanereyes.com and check out these other books. Barbara Jane Reyes was born in Manila, Philippines, raised in the San Francisco Bay Area, and is also the author of Gravities of Center, published by Arkipelago Books in 2003. So it's here. I know it is. There it is. Diwata, published by BOA Editions in 2010, which received the Global Filipino Literary Award for Poetry. To Love as Aswang, if you're Filipino, you love all these titles, because these are all the words we grew up with hearing stories, and they are powerful, almost magical, spiritual words for us. To Love as Aswang, which was published by Philippine American Writers and Artists in 2015, and Invocation to Daughters by City Lights Publishers in 2017. Here. Her seventh book, can you believe? Her seventh book, Wanna Peek Into My Notebook, Notes on Pinay I can't say this, liminality? You could correct me later, Barbara, is forthcoming next year from Paloma Press in 2022. She is also the author of the chapbooks Easter Sunday and Cherry, and for The City That Nearly Broke Me. Her work is published or forthcoming in Arroyo Literary Review, Asian Pacific American Journal, As Us, Boxcar Poetry Review, the Brooklyn Rail, Chain, 1111, Entropy, Fairy Tale Review, 14 Hills, Hambone, Katrika Review, Lantern Review, New American Writing, New England Review, New York Times Magazine, North American Review, Notre Dame Review, Origins Journal, Poetry, Prairie Schooner, South Dakota Review, Southern Humanities Review, Tile Literary Magazine, XCP, Cross Cultural Poetics, and many others. As Andrew Mellon Foundation Fellow, she received her Bachelor of Arts in Ethnic Studies. Yay, go Ethnic Studies. Ethnic Studies majors in the house. Put it in the chat. At UC Berkeley, and her Master's of Fine Arts at San Francisco State University. She is an adjunct professor at University of San Francisco's Yuchenko Philippine Studies program, and she lives with her husband, educator and poet Oscar Bermeo in Oakland, California. Please give a warm Michigan welcome to Professor Barbara Jane Reyes.
Thank you so much, Emily. I appreciate that. And Lisa behind the scenes, thank you so much for all your support. Thank you folks for showing up. So many folks in community here. Vince Gotera as well, shout out to you. Janica Torres, I know you're in there, shout out to you. Erin and Tarada Kelly, shout out to you. Girl, I already have a question from you. You're like ahead of the game. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump into this book. Letters to a Young Brown Girl, which Emily has mentioned, did come out last year. And I'm just gonna jump right into the poetry. And as well, if you folks have any poems you would like to hear read out loud, please put them in the chat. I don't know that I'll be able to get to all of them, but I will definitely try my best. Brown Girl Beginning, Dalaga. The breaking begins before you have words for it. Before skinning your knees on sidewalks riding two-wheelers. Before coloring books and peachy flesh Crayolas. Before Hello Kitty and Disney princesses. Before applying your mom's Avon lipstick behind the locked bathroom door. Before unearthing your dad's Playboy magazines at the back of your closet, at his closet. Before your Barbie doll's first girl-on-girl action, they are already breaking you. When your uncles kiss you too close to your lips and inhale you, it doesn't matter how boozy and pomaded, how tobacco stained, or how much gold they're flashing, how much unbuttoned chest hair, aftershave, and body funk. You must allow them to handle you fast at the waist. Be a big girl squirming on their laps and bulging crotches. You are to sit still and smile. When they marvel at how you have grown, dalaga na. You learn to say, salamat po. Bleed. This is how it began. When I was 7, I never knew that ladies' hands could hold hammers and hurt. When I was 8, they told me to stay in the shade. They told me no man would ever want a dark Igorot girl, so dirty. When I was 9, I learned I should smile at all the men who told me I was pretty. When I was 10, I learned to flip my hair, to roll up my skirt at the waist. When I was 11, they told me my legs were fat, my knees so black. When I was 12, they said in front of company, Iha, you should be bleeding na. Tomboy. When I was 12, I wanted sharp-pressed suits, David Bowie, Modern Love. I wanted those cheekbones. I wanted to play electric guitar, slung low between my legs, pointing to heaven and wailing. I wanted a motorcycle jacket and rockabilly hair. I wanted dragon ink to ribbon my arms, Japanese, whiskered, breathing fire. I wanted cowboy boots and a big-ass black Stetson. On Saturday mornings, my dad would call from under his Mustang, 64.5 with Alabama plates. I'd wear his old shirts. I'd hand him each greasy tool one by one. He'd nod. That's my boy. Becoming. When I was 13, they let me dance with boys 5, 6 years older than me. When I was 14, they told me I'd gained weight. They told me my hips were wide. When I was 15, they told me I should be a wife by the time I turned 21. When I was 16, they told me to study hard and go to college. They told me to stay away from boys. They told me to let the men drive. They told me to wait. When I was 17, they told me I must give my parents grandkids. When I raised my eyebrows at them, they told me to do as they say. They told me a lady does not talk back. They told me a lady always obeys. Cut. After I stopped wearing skin-tight, backless lycra mini dresses and black cherry lipstick to class, after rolling my eyes and crying a lot, I learned to say, fuck you. I set my ex-boyfriend's stuff on fire. I scared the hell out of my roommate who'd been playing house with some ugly white boy. He drove a shiny car. He bought her shiny things. They convinced me to douse the flames, just ditch my ex's stuff in a public locker downtown. When I cut off all my hair with blunt scissors in our gray basement apartment bathroom, swilling Absolute, the Cure's Disintegration on my boombox. No, I never cut myself. Yes, I dropped out of college. No, I did not eat. When I wore nothing but the torn up black 501s that lived on my bedroom floor, 10i secondhand Doc Martens, some old black t-shirt. When I learned to chain smoke, when the black circles appeared under my eyes, when I became too old to run away, I just stopped calling home. Run. One day, a group of boys said they'd rape you. Just drag you behind the bushes and rape you, just like that. Because you did not smile at them, because you did not say thank you. The threat was so artless, and this is when you knew it was idle. Dumb boys puffing out their chests because there was nothing else to do that day. Who knows what they were waiting for you to do? When you told them that they could go fuck their mothers, among other things, you could see the fraying, those thinning tethers to manhood, that thing that tells you that the thing that tells a young man to weep is weakness. Some tears fell. They weren't yours. Nobody touched you that day. Not a hand on your motorcycle leather, your fishnet thighs, your shaved skull. Your eyeliner never smeared or ran. You never ran. And even today, you tell this story only in second person. Brown girl hustle, grind. I see you running from job to job, hustling up shit-stained escalators. Your discount store black patent leather comfort shoes are killing your feet. You're boarding the train invaded by white, man-spreading assholes. You're elbowing your way through turnstiles and messenger bag tech bros. You're sardining into pink piss rank buses. This is where you're eating your lunch. You'll forget to reapply your lipstick. Your eyebrow wax is 2 weeks overdue. What a mess your face is. You're graying. You don't have time for color correction. I see you fingering your hemline. You think your skirt's a tad too short. Your control top pantyhose is starting to run. Your hair bun's coming undone. I need to tell you I see you. You're never not running. You're never not working. They act as if you were not even here. They erase you, but I see you. Yes, I see you. I know it'll be dark when you sit just for a minute in the kitchen, when you take a deep breath, when you begin again. Players, see us? We are the last Pinays standing in this smoke-stained place, the bourbon no better than high lead level tap water. If there are still jukeboxes filled with scratched 45s, they belong right here. We're young, but not too young. We're out past curfew. Your eyes see little brown ball bangers in this valley of tables. You peek down our blouses. You press up as we bend. We know we got you beat, man. Our shots are clean. We kiss only when we mean. Go ahead, break. Your body English tells us we'll be sinking gold. Alika, see what we can do with this stick. Anna, swing. See how we do not tap out. We'll slide our way out of your hold. We'll spring back up when you sucker punch. We bite down so hard our mouths break, tin and tart inside. When we get back up, you mispronounce our names. Still, we'll correct you sometimes. We all pick our battles. When we speak up, you step back, big stance. We bend our knees, we open our hips, pivot, and there's our left jab in your jaw. We bob and weave, we block and swing, right cross, left hook. We are not too dainty for this grappling and grounding. We don't care if you don't like what we're wearing. We'll take you down, we'll choke you out, and then we'll walk. Pia, queen. Brother, see how I roll lumpias wearing this tiara, this much mascara, and my fave black super skinny jeans. I shoot selfies with millionaire ballers. They are starstruck in my sequined glow. My eyebrows are so sharp, they slice you so clean, you don't have time to remember to bleed. I sprint up your mountains in my 5-inch pumps. I trained myself in 7. I leave you in the dust. I step into the room, elders' looms get clacking, clopping, cobblestone, swishing silk, and how my genteel countrymen swoon. My husicultor, my capis shell terno, my 7 cuchillos, if only Maria Clara could have cut with these. My your knuckles with my curling iron when you do not step back. I sing karaoke loud and off key. No, you really cannot quiet me. I'm gonna do a couple of the mixtape poems. Track My Life, Mary J. Blige, 1994. Back in the day, we burned white sage. We filled our small spaces with lavender and sunlight. We were such love-thirsty brown girls, aching, unslaked. How do you fill a vessel of want? Back in the day, always on the edges, looking into others' tidy white lives. When we subsisted on cheap tea and nicotine, when our belongings, mostly poem-filled notebooks, fit neat into milk crates. Back in the day, we wished to be so beautiful in our darkness. We occupied nowhere, stared into spaces we didn't think we'd belong. We walked if we didn't have bus fare. If you look at our lives back in the day, you will see such sad girls, so much unmet grace. Don't mind me. I'm just flipping through my book here. Track. A Little Bit of Ecstasy. Jocelyn Enriquez, 1997. Every single thing our titas cannot bear to see. Every single bit of native skin flashing island warm, hella not Castilian, hella not Espanol, every single bit of not Euro nose and not Anglo eyes. Every full hip sway, every long braid whipping around, every body piercing, gleaming golden, every lush stroke, every raised eyebrow, every dark, full lipstick, bronzed as bourbon and beaming, glorious nape and clavicle bared, every bit of high-heeled, wide stance, fist to open hands. Every single thing our pearl-clutching titas wished us not to be. I'm going to do one more of the mixtape poems, and I see a request from Mia for the Brown Girl Glossary of Terms, which I will be happy to read. Track, Soulful Dress, Sugar Pie de Santo, 1964. We'll shake and we'll shout till morning and roar. No, there's nothing tamed about us, not the hemline, not the neckline, not this streak of red lipstick, not these shit kickers, nothing silent, nothing shy, nothing here but fly. Nothing asking nothing from you, except get out of our way, except this is no ask. Don't tell us to dial it down. Don't tell us to be ladies. We'll show you our teeth. Don't lecture that we reckless, just recognize. You step the fuck back, son, and you recognize. Brown Girl, Glossary of Terms. Also some more shouts out. Edwin Lozada from Pawa in San Francisco is here. Sam Rojas Chua is here from Portland. Edwin and Aaron are saying hello to each other. Patty Enrado from the Bay Area is also here, another author from the Bay. We're in the house, Bay Area. What's up? I saw somebody here introducing themselves from Fremont too, which is where I grew up, right? So Fremont is in the house. Brown Girl Glossary of Terms. Internal colonialism. In the story, children who bite their tongues eat a porridge of falsehood till they are fattened little piggies. In the story, ladies who say yes are locked in wrought-jeweled cages. They sway to the tune of Taylor Swift covering Earth, Wind, and Fire, and they say, this is fine. Decolonization. They want to take this word away from you. They want you to explain why you look Asian when your name is clearly Spanish. They want to bring you Jesus, even though they see you people nailing themselves to crosses on Good Friday. Moreover, they think they brought you light bulbs, feminine hygiene products, and feminism. They love your white sand beaches. They think your whole nation is military bases and air-conditioned shopping malls and fine white sand beaches made for them. They need you to clean their houses and raise their babies. They don't even pay you minimum wage to change their elders' adult diapers. They don't accept that you are from Oakland. They don't accept that you have a nation they did not name. White privilege. In the story, the hero is always light-eyed and fair-haired. The distressed damsel is as well. Of course he is meant to claim her. Of course they are meant to have the brightest babies. See them banish all the dark from their domain. See them build their castles of light where our dark children play. Our dark bodies and tongues will be outlawed. Our dark gods as well. See the hero thrust himself upon his dark maid servants. See those dark maid servants shushed. See how wretched and ratchet all their dark bastards, ruckus making hoodlums and hooligans. See the hero and the damsel call the cops. Hear the chorus of not all white people. Hear the chorus of all lives matter. See the waterfall of white tears. Pinoy. You know what annoys me? people who won't see the through line from Joe Bataan to Bruno Mars. You ever wonder about the sound of a poet rapping with 10,000 carabaos in the dark? You ever eat fish and rice with your hands off styrofoam plates in a hole in the wall south of Market Street? You ever roll down your window while speeding down Highway 101 to smell the Pajaro River? What if that's the poem and you missed it because you were looking for something roseate, effete, something that smells like prestige? Pinay. Do you know yourself, Pinay? Do you name yourself, Pinay? This name was made here, born here, American as you, your Spam cans and your balikbayan boxes, American as the jeepney, American as your father's favorite Applebee's on Farwell in Fremont. Do you cringe when your people don't translate? Have you Googled cultural cringe? I fucking hate that term. Do you know that Prego commercial, daughter pleading English please for her white lover at a table full of titas and pinsans? That fabled Filipino hospitality, so much giving unto others until you are shoeless, penniless, mute, and hollowed out. Iha, you ain't Jesus multiplying the fishes and loaves. Pakikipagkapwa-tao. You will hear how stiff my tongue is when it comes to Tagalog in just about a second. Pakikipagkapwa-tao. Hella indigenous, which does not mean gone native. Kakayahan umunawa sa damdamin ng iba, for real. You know, like Ruby Ibarra and 100 Pinays giving you resting bitch face. You know, like those syndicated full-colored photographs of boys and men in LeBron James and Steph Curry jerseys, thinned flip-flops on the feet, one body together, shouldering a nation. One bamboo hut at a time, one set of lungs breathing, one heart, isang mahal, isang bagsak. Okay, Patty requests Brown Girl Fields Many Questions, the good long poems, and then Dear Brown Girl from page 53. Let me have a look at that one. Let's see. Yeah, that's a good closing poem, Derek Ortega, so I will read that to close it out. So this one is for Patty. Brown Girl Fields Many Questions. If you want to know what we are whose body parts are scattered to the winds, dispersed as heirloom seeds into beaks, stomachs, and droppings of migratory birds, broken through our clear film of rage to leaf and fruit, no matter what the territory or terrain, in which you may indicate a bearer of unspecified identity, a second person narrator, such that the you is really meant to be an I, a we, regardless of whether the hearer, onlooker, or reader wishes to be included or addressed, in which no may indicate awareness through observation or inquiry, having information concerning, having a personal experience of, in which the English we is crude, lacking in the specific exclusive and inclusive distinctions of the Tagalog tayo and kami, in which what is a pronoun choice you might find curious, not who, which indicates personhood or personified thing, but what, as in concept, as in phenomenon, as in the object you already believe the we is, in which if is the operative word, the contingent term, in case that, on the condition that, despite the possibility that, even though. Here are some questions you may try to consider. What's it like to be collected and shelved by people who say they dig your island oriental tropical look, your dark lidless eyes, your endless straight black hair? What's it like for them to tell you with their wide round eyes how lovely your accent is? They can't identify where it's from though. And yet you still speak such good English. How is that possible? What's it like to have white people coming up so close, gawking and poking at your flat little nose, your little body, touching your silky hair? What's it like to hear them tell you 24/7 that they wish they could bottle your skin like a liquid boutique bronzer for that tawny, warm glow? All that gold. What's it like to be this sun-kissed, plump-lipped, almond-eyed, fine-boned, tiny thing, to be so precious and treasured and sublime? What's it like to be so treasured, to be so trafficked? What's it like to be locked in for your own good so no one will get their oily fingerprints on you, so that no one can hear your soft, soft asking voice? What's it like when they mispronounce your alien name and shrug, when they tell you your ass should be deported? What's it like when they push you off the sidewalks and into the gutters? What's it like when they ask if you were bought from a catalog? What's it like when they mistake you for the help, the nanny, the maid, the janitor, the dishwasher? When they say you speak such good English, how is that even possible? What's it like when they ask whether your mother was a green card hunting whore, a nudie dancer near a military base, a drug addict, a welfare cheat? What's it like when they say you are an illegal, when they say fucking monkey, when they ask why you eat dog, when they call you a dirty Filipino? What's it like when they tell you you should be grateful? What's it like when white kids in a prom limo yell, fucking Jap, go back to China? What's it like when big white dudes get in your face shouting anything not white's not right? Who will remind you of Bulosan's songs of love? This meant something to you once. Who will remind you where the heart is? There, between your third and fourth rib. Who will blame you for effacing your face, for peeling your skin from your body? What's it like when white people yell at you that you ruined the neighborhood because you people kept landing at SFO and goddamn Manila is named after you people now? You took over our church, you took over our market, you took over our donut shop, you took over our liquor store, you took over our beauty salon with your chatter and your babies. What's it like when they yell at you that you have so many goddamn babies, now you are taking over Silicon Valley and all the schools, and now everything smells like fried fish and feet, all the weird shit you people eat. This place was quiet, but now your grandma's yelling who knows what to your uncles and your cousins. Why can't she just speak English? Fix your busted cars in the driveway, parked on the weeds in your junk front yard. They're spilling into our street. You're parked in front of my home. Move your goddamn car. Stay away from my daughters. Stay away from my dog. Fix your lawn. This is not the ghetto where you belong. What's it like when they yell, how many goddamn illegals can you pack into that little house? Fix your paint job. This is not the ghetto. There are so many of you. You've snatched up all the houses. You built over the old orchards. You picked the apricots, gladiolas, and almonds. We remember the mustard flowers and the dragonflies. Our children rode their ribbon bicycles, but now your boys racing rice rockets brace the quiet into pieces. You killed our peace. You stupid Filipinos can't even drive. What's it like when they say your boys are hoodlums and your sisters are indecent? All your girls are whores. Just go back to where you came from. Go back to where you came from. Go back because you don't belong here, because we never wanted you in our neighborhood. How are you still here, breathing, working, hustling like a motherfucker? How haven't you given up when everybody tells you not to speak? How are you still speaking? How haven't you disappeared into your sheets, into the dark with the windows shut and the front door bolted? How do you step outside your front door every day? How do you stand and walk that walk? How aren't you afraid, sister? Were your parents afraid? How did they teach you to be so still? Please teach me to be still like you. I'm going to end, I think, or maybe no, I did see another. Let's see, I did see one more request in here. Oh my gosh, I keep like scrolling back, but I can't find it. I'll do the Orange Moon poem and then I will end with the Dear Brown Girl on page 53. Okay, how does that sound? Orange Moon, Erica Badu, 2000. We are always the light, fireflies circling round the star apple trees. How good it is to be this sweet, smoldering light. How good it is to be this sun setting fire to the bay, gleaming off glass, diamonds before the dusk. Girl, we are gems cut so keen and fine. How we cut. How we hum, honey, open the lungs, the throat, and our song a chorus of praise and day. We glimmer so bright. How good it is to be so bright, to pay no mind to those who don't abide, so many who would dull our shine. And this will be my last poem. Dear Brown Girl, remember those diaries we were gifted as young girls, pale pink and floral, embossed with golden curlicues. Remember that tiny golden lock and precious key. Remember wanting to crawl inside and hide there. Remember how not speaking yielded so many secrets. Remember how you'd write and write, like if you didn't write, you would just die. Like if anyone ever read what you wrote, you would just die. They'd say, artista ka talaga, sus Mariosep anak, and you'd cry. Of course you'd cry. Remember when you were 19, your poems were so honey-coated. Your language was not really your language. It was so sugary, fancy, and high. You wrote about things you didn't know how to write about. 19-year-old girl living on top ramen and minimum wage. Remember how you blew a whole paycheck on a Waterman Laureate mineral blue fountain pen and tender purple ink? How you transcribed your finished poems into the matching hardbound violet marble journal edged with gold leaf. You love that scratch of gold-plated nib onto paper. You gazed at each glossy page air drying before you turned the page or closed the book. Dear Brown Girl, nobody ever read your poems back then. And then again, none of those poems were for them, diba? Okay, thank you all very much. Your comment stream over here in the chat is amazing. Thank you so much. And yeah, thank you.
Woo! Woo! Round of applause. Oh my goodness.
So many questions coming in.
Thank
Oh my God. Okay.
Just thank you so much. That was so amazing. You know, you and I read before, thanks to Manong Bob, Robert Francis Floor, who brought us together
And
at
Sam, who is here
yeah, and
somewhere.
Sam is here too. Oh my goodness, Sam is here too. And but it's this reading is just, I mean, even though we're on Zoom, it's so powerful because this book, I love this book. First of all, by the way, I assigned it for two classes that are online here with us today. So if y'all didn't know, I'll just show my bias right now. But and I want to say I love it for so many reasons, and it means even more to hear you read it. And I love it, I think, for the primary reason because, you know, I'm that brown girl. I'm that young brown girl. I mean, even though I'm old now, I am that young brown girl. And I think so many folks in the audience today feel that same way. And, you know, I have two young girls, two young daughters, and I want them to be able to read this, you know, and to see themselves, because we never had that growing up in America. I just want to thank you. I was writing a letter. You know, I had the students do an exercise in class last week to write a letter to themselves, or to you, or to one of the poems, or to their future children. And I started to write a letter to you to say thank you, maraming salamat, because you basically have the soundtrack to our lives and our poems and our writers all in one book. And it's
Mm.
so
Oh my gosh. Thank you.
amazing.
I'm so moved.
Yeah. And I know I'm gonna cry. And y'all see, y'all just don't know. You don't know what it's like. Maybe you do know. Maybe maybe half of you know and half of you don't know. Um, but you don't know what it's like to grow up in America without ever seeing somebody in front of the classroom who looks like you, or to read books that have writings by people like you. And I'm blessed. I mean, I know folks may not know, but I'm blessed that, you know, I grew up with writers in my family, but also in the community, and was really blessed to be able to, um, you know, be taught by, you know, folks like Sean Wong and others who really championed Asian American literature. And so I
Mm.
just give a big shout out and thank you to them. Um, but there's so many comments in the chat. We're going to remind you to ask you to put questions in the Q&A little box. It says Q&A on your control screen. Put questions in there so I could see it. And we have about 50 different questions from students too. So I'm going to try to triage some of these and group them together. Are you okay to stay on until 20 after? Because
Yeah.
that's the time period for the class.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So if you're just joining us, please type your names in the chat where you're from, or what indigenous land you're joining us from, and then write any Q&As in the Q&A box. If you want to appear on screen, then put that in there as well. So I like to start out a lot of my interviews and a lot of my conversations with writers and activists and scholars with the same question that one of my mentors, Grace Lee Boggs, the late Grace Lee Boggs, Chinese American scholar, activist, and philosopher from Detroit, used to say. She would often start her conversations with this question: what time is it on the clock of the world?
Mm.
Right? And all of us would be sitting there going, oh man, Grace. Wow. You know, and I think for us as Asian Americans, especially as Asian American women, right? We know what time it is on the clock of the world. And, you know, and I love you for your activism. And so do you want to talk a little bit about that? What your thoughts are on current issues?
Okay,
Um,
sure. Yeah. I'd love to. You know, I've been talking to my own students. I teach Pinay Lit at University of San Francisco. We just finished reading. Well, we read my book, but we're reading all kinds of amazing Filipina authors right now. And one of the things that so many of the women in my class, Pinay and otherwise, you know, were saying in response to my book was, "I feel so seen. I feel so seen." And I love that, right? So I wanted to break that down a little bit and ask them, what does that mean? And what is the value of that? And I said, you know, by contrast, uh, somebody like Jeremy Lin, for example, is very seen, but he's being called
your sound for me went out. I'm not sure.
things that are beyond our control, right? So I asked my students after we came back from spring break, you know, I am curious, does it even help us to be sitting in a classroom reading Filipina literature? What is, you know, like the world is on fire, people are dying, people are, you know, whatever, right? Is this even helpful? And some of the students started to say, and they started to piece together this wonderful, you know, these wonderful ideas. And it was like this, right? Like here we are reading all of these women, Filipino women, immigrant women, who are controlling their own narratives. They are making space to understand their history. They are making space to understand what it is they've inherited. You know, we have a really troubled colonial history as Filipinos. What does it mean to reckon with that and then take that with you into the world? What does that mean to take that with you into the world and live your life while shootings are happening in Atlanta and people are being called the China virus and stuff? And here we are thinking about how Asian women, Filipino women, can still walk into the world with bravery and confidence and self-knowledge. Does that help us? How can it not, right? I think maybe when we step out the door and we are afraid because we don't know our place and we don't know who we are, you know, that is a paralyzing feeling as well. So I guess that's how I would answer that question right now.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. I
Mhm.
think, you know, the day after the shootings happened was a really traumatic day. After the Atlanta Asian spa shootings happened, it was a really, really traumatic day for a lot of us who teach. And I just want to thank the students who are here who were able to allow us all to hold space, whether you're Asian or not, hold space and just kind of process, right, what happens. And I think that's what your poetry does for me, right? It helps me process a lot of the trauma that we as Pinays, we as Filipino American women grew up with. And I
Mhm.
just want to thank you for that, for real, just from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you.
I like to ask, especially Filipinos, I like to just ask you, and some of the students have this question too, you know, just a little bit about maybe your family, your parents, um, were they immigrants, and just some influences in you in your personal family life.
Okay, you know that the Brown Girl Fields Many Questions, the What's It Like, What's It Like poem, you know, I wrote that with my parents' neighborhood in mind. So I did grow up in Fremont. They were immigrants. They came here in the late 60s as young people. My mom was straight out of college. And they left my older sister behind with my mother's family. Came here. The first apartment they lived in was this one-bedroom apartment near St. Luke's Hospital in the Mission District in San Francisco. And you know, hustled and saved money. And then a couple years later, my mom went home to the Philippines, gave birth to me, promptly came back here and kept hustling, right? And then a couple of years later, my aunt, who is also my godmother, my ninang, flew from the Philippines with her nursing degree, you know, to California with me and my older sister, and we reunited with my parents. And so the stories of that time, I think, are they're like mythical in my mind, that we show up at SFO and we have no idea who these people are that are greeting us on the other side, because we didn't grow up with them, right? But you know, that my parents were here hustling and saving all this money. A couple of years later, we moved to Fremont. They bought their first house in Fremont. So my parents were living what they believed was the American dream, right? And sent me and my sisters to Catholic school. You know, and my mom passed away recently, back in November. So it's still pretty fresh. But one of the last conversations I had with her actually was about this crazy thing that happened in our neighborhood. If you Google Fremont Karen, you will see this video of this white woman yelling at a Chinese American woman and her daughter in, you know, in a little a suburban neighborhood, and saying like, you know, oh, do you rent here, or is that your house? And do you, you know, you have to like trim your bushes because you're decreasing our property values. And then it quickly escalated to go back to China, go back to China. So, you know, I was looking at this video and going, you know, that looks really familiar. That area looks really familiar. And it literally was 4 houses down from my mom's house. And my mom, you know, was inside and she was already very sick. So this thing was going down in the neighborhood. My mom's sister, the one who came here with us, who took us here, was in the front watering the garden and saw the whole thing go down. And she said, you know, if that bitch ever comes over here and talks to me, I will tell her to just go fuck herself. you know. And I was like, all right, okay. So I asked my mom, like, this is it was 2020. What was it like here in 1976? Were the people I was thinking like, wait a sec, really? I mean, like, this didn't like none of this ever happened. Nobody ever told you to go back to where you came from. And I was like, surprised. But I kind of feel like my mom was also shielding us from a lot of things.
Yeah, I tell this story in my oral history classes that I teach. My mom would always say, "Oh no, I love this country. Thanks be to God," right? Because she didn't want to be deported, right? But also because the way they defined their generation defined racism and discrimination was like crosses burning on their yard, right? As opposed to how we define it. But oh my God, I've seen that Fremont video. I had no idea that was in your neighborhood. Oh my goodness. Now all the students are going to be Googling that. Which is good. I think we need to be able to call those Karens and call that problem out. Awesome. Okay. I'm going to try to go to the list of questions. Let's see. All right. So a lot of the students and some of the folks in the Q&A too were asking just your process. Specifically, Desiree, one of the students, were asking, and they asked this last week too, what inspired you to use specific artists and their songs for the mixtape section?
Okay.
And I'll try to
Uh,
put the link to your Spotify. There's a Brown Girl
sure.
mixtape that we were trying to play in the beginning. Go ahead.
Okay. I first of all, how is my sound? Um,
It's
is
going in and out, but I can hear you now.
Okay. All right. I apologize for that. I'll try to just kind of keep my mic close. The mixtape is, first let me kind of go back and talk a little bit about just the Dear Brown Girl, these letters. So I loved writing these letters because I feel like the epistolary is a very kind of personalized way of speaking to people, right? And so that is kind of one of the things, right? When I'm writing directly to brown girls, I'm like, I hope, maybe this is probably one of the reasons why people are feeling seen, because you brown girls are being directly addressed. So that's the first thing. So when we go to the mixtape section, I feel like, well, a mixtape is also like a love letter, right? For those of you who don't know what putting together mixtapes was like in the 80s and 90s, where you did have to kind of, dig in the crates at your best friends' houses and at the public libraries and, like really go for those deep cuts and for all of your favorite songs. And you would have to gather all the LPs and all the 45s, and you would have to have a record player hooked up to a tape recorder, cue up the tape. Sometimes you'd have to use a pencil to cue up the tape, hit pause and record, put the record on, put the needle on the record, unpause the cassette, play the song, wait for the song to fade out, pause the tape, pull the needle off the record, find the next record, put that on the record player, and so on. So it was a very, very painstaking process, very tactile and painstaking. And when you started putting these like mixed tapes together, you were creating bodies of work. I like to say that this is where I first learned how to put a book together, right? Because you have to go like kind of sound or theme or voice or something, like what is the through line, right? And you're thinking that too when you're putting a book manuscript together full of like 100 poems. What is the through line? What is the best through line? But you're also putting a message together, and you're giving these tapes to your BFFs and to your love interests, or you're marking an event, right? You know, and so I was thinking from middle school when music started to become like my world, because that was my introduction into arts, right? And artists, and lyricism were through song lyrics, right? Poetic lyricism and song lyrics, not too entirely different from one another. So when I first started becoming more engrossed in that world, and up until very recently, I've always kind of had these soundtracks, right? Of like, what is it that is constantly playing? What music is constantly playing in my headphones and my earbuds? Back when I had, you know, a CD player, a little compact Discman that I would take with me everywhere. And these were the songs that were kind of informing my mood and my poetry. And well, you know, ultimately, I guess, you know, whatever kind of identity I put into the world. Um, and sometimes I think I can tell you when I read back in my old books what it was that I was listening to when I was writing my book Poeta in San Francisco. I can tell you exactly what albums I was listening to. You know, and so I think that that's that, you know, kind of picking from middle school up till, you know, relatively present time, like what music has been most meaningful to me, and most specifically, which brown women's voices were these songs that were important to me for one reason or another. So when you do, you know, when I go back to Mary J. Blige's, you know, if you look at my life, you'll see what I see. I'm transported entirely back to the 90s, to the house in Berkeley that I lived in with all these other, you know, Pinay Maganda magazine, you know, kind of poet folks. You know, and how we would all get together in the living room around the coffee table after work or after school. And the whole coffee table was entirely like filled with empty, cheap red wine bottles and all of these overflowing ashtrays. And that's what we would do. We would smoke and just drink red wine and decompress, you know, and that was just the thing that we did. That was our life. And we literally were like scraping together all our nickels to be able to split like a thing of nachos for 250, you know. And it was some beautiful shit, you know, even though it was also kind of a scrappy way of living. So yeah.
That's amazing. I so feel that. The things we did when we were younger just to survive and to be able to write. Amazing. You know, earlier in the chat, I don't know if she's gone yet, but and in the Q&A, if y'all don't know, I'm just going to try to share my screen. We have all kinds of Filipino American Pinoy luminary writers in the audience today. I mean, that's how much respect I think they have for you, Barbara. And it's amazing. And one of them it was Erin Entrada Kelly, who, if y'all don't know, won the Newbery Medal Award twice. Yes. And I had asked her if she wanted to go to be on screen with you, but I think she had to leave. So I'll just kind of show y'all her website there. This is one of her websites and her books. Amazing, just amazing kind of books. And also want to just do some shout outs to some other folks that are in the audience, because we have like a list that is worthy, and some may even be mentioned or referred to kind of in your poems. So we have our amazing, I don't know if can you see my screen? Sam Rojas Chua. Come to Fonz, y'all. This is how we all connect. We have our friends from Eskwelahang Filipino Cultural School in Boston. Our Lisa Factora Bocheres, sister friend. Thank you for joining us. Y'all should just read all her work. It's amazing. Vince Gotera, I had mentioned to you before, right? Patty Enrado wrote an amazing epic novel, A Village in the Fields, right there. Just fabulous, awesome kind of people. And I also was going to share with you all the link to Barbara's Brown Girl mixtape that's on Spotify. Ooh, that's my alarm. Okay, so now that we're at the alarm, that means we're at 5 minutes. So we're going to do, I think, 4 minute speed round. Okay, and I like to do this. I learned this from facilitating a Q&A with the most amazing facilitator ever, Adrienne Marie Brown, who students know is the editor of Octavia's Brood and Emergent Strategy and all kinds of other books. But she was also my doula, literally. She gives birth to movements and gives birth to babies, helps give birth to babies. But the key is I'm going to ask you a question from the list or amalgamated question, and you answer it. Try to answer it in 1 to 5 words, quickly, like okay, rapid speed questions. Okay. I don't know if you could do Aaron's. Aaron's is there's so much to be angry and rageful about, as we all know. How do you practice self-care? How do you keep your soul safe and healthy?
Boundaries.
Awesome. All right, you got it. Okay. Annika asks, what were some of your main inspirations for your poems, or is there one specific poem that has a special place in your heart? Loved hearing these beautiful poems. Thank you so much.
I think my Brown Girl Fields Many Questions, because it is something that I saw in my neighborhood. Yeah.
Me too. Derek asks, love the book and the reading today. Thank you so much. My question is regarding your technique in the book. I noticed that you have several questions throughout the book, but I believe I only have one poem that uses a question mark. From Dear Brown Girl, page 53. Can you share your thoughts on closing your questions with a period instead of a question mark?
I'm a little bit more definitive than asking. I think when even I'm asking, I'm making a statement.
Awesome. Okay, anonymous question. Was there any famous work that everyone loved, but you didn't? If so, why? Speaking more like classic literature with themes that aren't as relevant today. And these are all from the Q&A if you want to look at them.
Offhand, I can't think of anything. I know I couldn't read James Joyce. I couldn't read James Joyce. Not to say I never will. But I couldn't. Yeah.
I hear you. All right. Tita Benita, thank you for joining us. One of our community leaders here from our PACE, our Filipino Arts Cultural Endeavor. Tita Benita says, I love your book cover, and I'm just curious to know your inspirations in the design, the wings, the boat, native girl. Thanks. And students had the same question last week too.
Maria Dumlau is the artist, Philly-based Pinay artist, and it is, you know, as you see the girl, but it is also a giant bat, and she's like compiled these images together.
Yes, right. That is awesome. That's what I thought it was too. And it kind of speaks to mythic creatures in Philippine mythology too, right?
Definitely mythic creatures, the Aswang, but also just, you know what, the girl is powerful. The girl is totally powerful and monstrous.
That's right. Yeah. I love it. I love it. The power of the Aswang. Anonymous asks, how do you know where and how to implement language in your pieces in a way where people don't know the language still understand?
It's always about context, right? I had some guy once tell me, don't use language because you can, but that's exactly why you use language, because you can. And you
that's right.
To,
right. Because I can. Absolutely. Yeah. Mia asks, hi, Mia, how do you go about starting to write a poem? Does it usually stem from a specific memory or start at a specific time of day?
Sometimes it's just language. Sometimes it's an image and something that I hear. You know, I just heard something beautiful the other day, the thickening of your larynx. You know, I'm writing a whole damn book. I'm writing a whole damn book because of this thickening of your larynx.
Wow.
Yep.
Awesome. I'll tell you mine. I write for 2 reasons, love and revenge. That's it. Anonymous, how do you navigate your identity as a Filipino American knowing all the harm America has committed against the Filipino people?
I think it's in my poems. I don't know that I have speed round answer for that, but I think
that's right.
Read the book. I think that's the answer.
Yeah. I think so too. And that's why I love it so much. It's like a survival guide. Lisa, hi, Lisa Factora Borcheres. What do you want to see more from Pinay, Filipino American women writers?
Bravery.
Awesome.
Yep.
And Anna is asking, how do you deal with imposter syndrome? 1 to 5 words. Can you do it?
Imposter syndrome is not like us not being good enough. It's an institutional system that is white supremacist and patriarchal. And the sooner we get that out of our heads, the better we can just write.
Yes. Awesome. Oh, okay, Ben. I see you get in the last minute. All right, Ben. Ben is asking, which poem is most essential for young men?
Oh my God. Good question. Which one poem?
Well, I think they all are, but
I think they all are. I don't know. I'm not
Come on now. How you gonna make us choose?
Maybe Brown Girl Becoming. That's the poem
Yeah.
that I read with many parts that ends with that second person awful incident.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Great. Absolutely. Let's see. I'm going to try to ask you one last question now,
Okay.
because I think we got through all the Q&A ones. But is there anything else you want to tell us? You want to leave us with today?
I don't know. I mean, like I write a book, I leave it all on the floor. So I think, there's until the next book, there's nothing that isn't, everything has been said until it hasn't. So, that's kind of the segue into what happens next.
Awesome. Amazing.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
No. This honestly was so amazing for us, for me personally, and just to have. I told Aaron privately, I'm fangirling out. Because I have so many folks. There are so many folks in the audience here to see you, that who I admire as well, and who I looked up to, and who I have on my bookshelf and read and assign. And it's just been such an honor to share this space with you, and to celebrate your amazing work. And so I want to just thank you from the bottom of my heart, and thank everybody who's joined us today. We do have a couple sponsor announcements. I don't know if I shared some links to folks who are in the audience, the writers who are in the audience. Can you put your websites in the chat? Folks are asking, how do we get a hold of you? And we want to totally support Filipino American writers, Asian American writers. So please, Derek is saying snaps, please put your links in the chat so they can find you, bring you out, and assign your work, read your work, buy your books as well. So Lisa, Sam, Manong Vince, Manong Patty, everybody put your links in there while I show you some of our sponsor announcements I'm supposed to share. Let's do this. Go ahead and do that. Uh-oh. Are you putting them in the chat? If you love this gathering today, please join us on Wednesday at 1 p.m., where I will be in conversation with the actor B. Vang from Gran Torino for our Asians in American Film and Television class. We'll also have Mai Zhang with us, who was the first Hmong American elected official in the state of Michigan. So if you want the link to that, you go to tinyurl.com/BEE Vang. BEE Vang, B Vang. All right, check that out. Thank you to Lisa for that. Also, on Monday, April 12th, some of our Kasamas from the Bay are going to join us for a book talk on their amazing anthology book called Fight the Tower, Asian American Women Scholars, Resistance and Renewal in the Academy, with Dr. Q Lin Caroline Valverde from University of California, Davis, and Dr. Wei Ming Dariotis from San Francisco State University. That'll be happening at 10 a.m. with our Asian Pacific Islander American Women's class, as well as our Asian American Civil Rights class. If you'd like the link to that, Zoom webinar, go to tinyurl.com/Fight the Tower Book Talk. And I think you capitalize all those words. Fight the Tower Book Talk. I think that was the last. We'll have more guest speakers on Wednesday, April 7th, James Benny Wilson, Filipino American adoptee and filmmaker. And Wednesday, April 14th, my friend, the amazing director, Grace Lee, who co-directed the Asian Americans PBS documentary, and the amazing documentary American Revolutionary, The Evolution of Grace Lee Boggs. All right.